gracioso esto porque en principio este live estaba previsto para las 12:11 y quisimos hacerlo antes, nos adelantamos y mira, parece que es hasta ahora la que va a salir. Vamos a ver entonces si logramos nuevamente que Ignacio Acuña se una al en vivo. Ahora sí, aquí en serio, vamos a reconectarnos. Para hablar, seguir en esta conversación que les estaba comentando, que estamos aquí celebrando la Semana de la Tierra. Y como estamos celebrando la Semana de la Tierra, pues vamos a hablar de construcciones eco-friendly y esta tecnología de domes se construye con Aircrete es realmente muy apropiada para este momento. Es una técnica para hacer casitas en forma de dome. Y es eco-friendly, es anti-termitas, anti-fuego, anti-earthquake. Y pues bueno, vamos a hablar con Ignacio Acuña, que se supone que debe estar por aquí conectándose. Vamos a ver si lo logramos esta vez y si no, pues no pasa nada, no pasa nada. No toca entrevistar a Ignacio, parece. Vamos a ver si se une con nosotros. Ignacio, ¿estás por aquí? Vamos a ver si nos encontramos. Y bueno, les comentaba también que de aquí voy para el pueblo del Monte Shasta. Tenemos una ceremonia de las aguas más tarde, de la bendición de las aguas, y también hay una exposición de eco art haciendo honor a la tierra, donde se están presentando obras todas vinculadas con la Pachamama que honran la tierra. Y luego tenemos conciertos, en fin, una comunidad muy holística y muy conectada con la naturaleza aquí en el Monte Shasta. Así que bueno, vamos a ver, tengo yo un poco frisado esto por aquí. Es porque claro, yo creo que ya se ha cortado tantas veces el live que ahora no está corriendo. Vamos a ver. Acuña, Ignacio. Pues bueno, no está allí, no logra conectarse. Estas cosas pasan a veces, aunque ya no estamos en Mercurio retrógrado y ya esto no tendría por qué estar ocurriendo, sin embargo está ocurriendo. Bueno, aquí se está conectando. Vamos a ver, parece que esta vez sí lo vamos a lograr. Vamos a ver entonces si Ignacio se une aquí con nosotros. Vamos a invitarlo. Está conectando. Vamos a darle chance a que acepte la invitación. Muy bien.
Woo!
You got it. You got it.
I got it.
Yo pensé que íbamos a tener que suspender el live de hoy.
I'm sorry. This is all new. This is the first time I've ever done this, and I didn't get it. Yeah.
Okay, you're here. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. Okay. So les estaba diciendo, I was saying that Ignacio trabaja con esta técnica de Aircrete. Y bueno, no solamente es un maestro para construir domes, sino que también trabaja con madera y bueno, hace unas cosas artísticas bellísimas, bellísimas, bellísimas. Y yo quise, Ignacio, si puedes bajar un poquito la cámara para verte un poquito. There you go. Ahí está, perfecto. Ignacio, me gustaría que nos comentaras primero que dijeras de pronto cuánto tiempo tienes en este tema de construyendo los domes, ¿verdad? Y nos hablaras un poquito de ti antes de entrar como en materia de lo que son.
Ya, muy bien. He estado haciendo domos, bueno, he estado haciendo carpintería y construcción unos 24 años. Empecé con pintar casas ahí en San Francisco, las casas esas de...
Se fue un poquito el audio, no sé si soy yo. Tengo problemas con el audio. No sé qué pasó. A ver, ok, el audio está de vuelta, ok. And no, and I know you feel more comfortable speaking in English. So whatever you feel more comfortable speaking language, just go ahead.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I started speaking. I started doing construction like 24 years ago. And I first started at painting Victorian houses in San Francisco, and then I got into carpentry, and I studied under Japanese masters for a couple years. I also started doing a lot of custom work for clients in custom houses, and then I got into building custom houses and remodeling for a lot of my career. And then we've started having fires in California, and there were some pretty traumatic things that happened. I had to evacuate three different times. One time it was very close to my house, and I saw the houses around me burning up. And then in a week or two, or however long, the same houses started to be built, and I was just kind of grossed out. I've been kind of grossed out about the building world, and how there's a lot of waste, and also how these houses burn down, and then they just rebuild them the same way. Also, I'm very sensitive to architecture, and I like architecture a lot. So I've been studying architecture since I was a kid. I'm a draftsman. I do 3D modeling, design for people. I also do a lot of project management for people on construction jobs. And so I have done a lot of different things. But once I had this experience of being evacuated and seeing these houses burn down, I had to be like, and I also saw a lot of mold in where my place is. There's a lot of mold that happens in Sonoma County. Can be very wet there. And since I did remodeling, I also noticed houses, they have so many layers in the regular construction. There's like 17 layers in a regular house envelope, that there's just a lot of possibilities for failure and mold, and then the fires. And
The termites also, right?
termites,
The
exactly.
insect.
So termites, mold, rot, fire. So all these things were just like big question marks. Like, how come we're not building houses that can resist these things, as well as hurricanes and tornadoes, and like just acts of God. I think are something that happens a lot to houses that people don't take into account when they're building them. And so I was just kind of in a loss, and and at the time I was dating somebody who was really interested in finding sustainable building practices, and I had friends that were into like earth building, but I was so deep in my world, and that I wasn't really looking outside. But I started to look outside because of my partner's interests, and we were going to go into business together. And I found Aircrete, and it was like, wow, what a beautiful structure. And then as I did more and more research around Aircrete, and also domes and arches, I just discovered that there's this whole world of like how form can actually be a structural part of a building. And then as I've discovered Aircrete only has like 3 different layers in the envelope, which is paint, stucco, and then Aircrete. And so there's a lot less points for failure in Aircrete. There's a lot less lot less possibility for things to mold, because as people know, or I don't know if people know, that concrete is resistant to mold and rot. It's resistant to fires. It's resistant, and because of the shape of the dome, and because of arches. So domes in particular are very resistant to winds, high winds, because of the sphere shape, right? So the wind, it's aerodynamic. And then as far as the structural, like for earthquakes, a dome is very resistant because it distributes weight, because it's a sphere. And then also, so it disperses weight, and it distributes loads really well. So if there's an earthquake, the whole dome kind of acts monolithically and works together to stay strong. And then arches are also really fascinating to me because they use arches in cathedrals, and so there's this whole way of building that has been lost by using square buildings. And to me, make absolutely no sense. And if you look at buildings nowadays, there's always mold in the corner. There's always spider webs in the corner, and that's because there's no airflow. And airflow is incredibly important for molds, and to keep having stagnant air, to have fresh air moving throughout the house. So domes just make a lot of sense to me. At that point, I was just like, wow, like this is a whole other place that has been in construction and building that has kind of got lost, because we have square furniture and this and that. So that was my biggest interest, like the fires, the construction methodology, architecture. So it had all these possibilities. It had all these qualities that I was looking for, or that I felt that were lacking actually, and that was lacking in building and lacking in our world. Like not having beautiful architecture. I feel like beautiful architecture, it's a living art. Like you could live inside of it, and it's like living in art, I guess is what it is. So to me,
in your work, and it's so beautiful outside and beautiful inside. But my question here is that you say that the other houses, the regular standard houses, usually have like 13 layers or something, and Aircrete is like it's 3. And how is more resistant then? Is this because of the shape? Is it because of the material? How can a dome could be more resistant um, uh, with earthquakes and winds and than other
well,
type of?
so domes are resistant because, as I was trying to describe, is a dome is aerodynamic because it's a sphere, right? So you don't have edges and corners for a wind to catch, so it just goes right over it, right? So, and in earthquakes, it's because it's a sphere, it's a half a sphere, that it shifts and moves all together, and it distributes the weight all together. Now with square buildings, you have corners, and corners are incredibly weak, right? They're incredibly weak. They'll want to buckle. They have a hinge. Basically, it's like having a hinge. A square building has a hinge. Every corner is a hinge. So it's a very weak structure, actually. But a dome all acts monolithically. It moves monolithically all together.
Yeah.
Does that answer the question?
Yeah, sure. So can you describe how is this Aircrete technique? How do you make it up, or how does it
Yeah.
work?
So essentially what we do is we increase the volume. So why it's called sustainable building, why we call it sustainable building, one is because we're increasing the volume of material from to 9 times the volume of material. So we'll take 1 sack of cement and we'll expand that with foam. Through foam, we'll expand that material to 9 times its volume. So we'll take us 1 sack of cement, and we'll make which is around 5 gallons total, and we'll make 45 gallons of material once we've injected all of the foam into that. And then we take that barrel of foam cement, and it's like a liquid. It's very liquidy. It's a little liquidy and foamy at the same time. It's almost like a cappuccino feeling, It almost feels like cappuccino, foamy, but it has air in it, but yet, it has liquid. And then we pour that into forms that we make. We either make or you can buy them, the forms. And then those forms have separators, and they make the bricks. And then once we let that set over for 24 hours, you disassemble them and you take the bricks out, and then you can start gluing them right then. I like to give them 2 days generally and you stack them. Then we stack them with foam mortar that we put foam, which is basically just cement and foam into it. And then we mortar them. Mortaring means like, it's like the glue, right? The glue of the brick. Yeah. And then we stack them and we make our domes with other things that are happening that you would have to take a workshop to understand, or yeah.
And talking about a workshop, we're gonna have a workshop about to learn how to build with Aircrete. aquí en Mount Shasta, here in Mount Shasta, from May 24 to June 22nd with Ignacio. And this is going to be amazing because we're going to start, creating the first dome here in Avalon. Si tienen alguna pregunta, if you have any question to Ignacio, this is a good time to make it. Ignacio, I was going to ask you, what about in terms of permits? Is it easy to get permits for domes, and how is usually this when you're constructing a dome?
It's right now we've been working with architects and engineers. We just got in California is very difficult. So, but if you could in California, if you do I think it's about a 16-foot dome, no, a 12-foot dome, you can do without any permits. Anything under 120 square feet, you can do without a permit. You only need a permit for the electrical and the plumbing if you're going to put that in there. But otherwise, you don't need a permit. Just so people know that you can make a small, like, you wouldn't want to call it a bedroom. You want to call it an art studio, or you want to call it an office.
A meditation room or something like that.
Room. You never want to call it another bedroom. Like, you never say you're going to sleep in it.
Yes.
But so that's where you actually don't need anything. Anything over 120 square feet, which is I think around 12-foot diameter dome, which is big enough for a bed and a little bedroom, you need a permit. And so we've gotten a lot of data from an engineer around wind loads. Right now we're trying to get more data around earthquakes, because California is big with earthquakes. But we recently I just did a job in Panama, where we got our first permitted structure in all of Panama, Aircrete, with the Panamanian authorities there, in a highly seismic place, like a highly earthquake zone.
Wow.
And so we developed this technique where we have a ring. Basically, it's a concrete ring with rebar and posts that come up along the walls and doors, and they have this ring above the doors, and then from there you continue your aircrete. So that apparently will stabilize everything. Personally, I don't think it's necessary, because just the shape of the dome, but engineers are very difficult to work with. So to answer your question, there have been permitted structures in California, not in California, I don't think in California, but in Virginia and other parts of the world, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, this is not only for California, because actually most of the people that is coming for the workshop, they are not from California. They're coming even from South America, so from other places. Yeah. So I guess in terms of permits, it depends of the area, the zone where they live, the country, right? The state.
Yeah, a lot of Latin America. If you live in urban areas and like cities and stuff, it's more difficult to build anything alternative. You usually have to build cinder blocks, cement, concrete, rebar.
So this is more like off grid, or maybe if you have a big backyard or something that you want to create this dome.
So if you want something, if you have a big backyard, or you live in the country, it's a lot easier to build whatever you want, without any sort of restrictions. But like I said, I'm trying to get more research around the seismic loads, because now we have wind. Now we just need seismic, which is earthquakes, and also snow loads is something that we're getting researched right now as we speak. So once we have those numbers, because numbers are universal, I believe that we can take this anywhere in the world and build to permits, But I've built multiple structures all over the world, and I haven't had any trouble,
Awesome. Also, what about weather? Are domes more recommendable for the heat, for the cold, for what type of weather? It's better for this kind of structures, or they can work either hot or cold weather.
Yeah, well, you can adjust the thickness of the brick according to your environment, right? So if you live in a really cold environment, most of the time you can build a 10-inch brick, use a 10-inch brick, right? Or if you use like I in Panama we did a 6-inch brick. I like 6-inch brick is very versatile. So but if you're living like in a tropical environment, you just use a smaller brick, like a 4-inch brick, for us just for structure. And then mosquito netting. If you don't even need heat or cold, then all you need is mosquito netting. A 4-inch brick will give you a structure, a strong structure, but it won't hold heat in very well. It won't hold cold in, but it'll give you a shelter. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So it's very
So
it's very versatile. That's also another thing I love about it.
I can see that. I'm so excited. I'm so excited
Yeah,
about learning
yeah.
how to work with Aircrete. And can you say, can you tell pretty much what is what people is going to learn in this workshop that we're going to have in May 24th? And in those 10 days, what is what they're going to learn?
Yeah, they'll learn um they'll learn how to mix. They'll learn the full mix of how to make an aircrete brick, you know. Um, they'll learn how to make the most of the infrastructure, the compass arms. They'll learn how to stack the brick. You know, a lot of it, the you can you can basically get all the information you want on the internet. As for that's true for anything, right? Like on the internet, you can just find how to make anything this nowadays, and even Aircrete, you can learn how to mix it. But what we're teaching muscle memory. We're teaching you how to actually uh, take a brick three-dimensionally and build with it. You know how the compass arm works too, and you actually start learning in your body how to do this. So if one is really serious about building, this is the best way and the fastest way to learn how to build, as opposed to on the internet. You know, it'll take you twice as long on the internet than taking a course, because in the course you're actually building, right? You're not just looking at it two-dimensional. You're looking at, and you're also feeling the dome. You're also seeing how it goes up. So there's a lot of benefits. I think it's the only way, honestly. I could look at something on the internet and still be scratching my head, you know, for a long time before I know how to build something. So most of the time it's just doing it. And this is the best place to learn how to do it.
Plus, we're gonna build together in in community, and also we're creating this space, this sacred space,
Yeah.
here in Avalon, in front of Mount Shasta. That'd be amazing. Um, I'm pretty sure some people is wondering when I say they are low cost building. Um, in in average, how much you think could cost a small dome, the construction with materials and everything, for people that are seeing it, and maybe they want to build up a small dome house? How much in terms of money that could
Well, like
cost?
what depends, it always depends on how much labor are you going to do the labor. What are your finishes? What's your foundation like? You know, what's the cost of cement in your area? So it's very difficult to give you a price. But for, like, let's just say 120 square foot, something you don't need a permit, right? You do a very basic foundation with a cinder block foundation, perimeter foundation, not a slab foundation, because that can be very expensive because that's a lot of cement. Let's just say the cheapest, I and the finishes, and I'm not including, and you could put a regular door in it and a regular window in it. I think you could do it between $6,000 to $5,000 if you do the work yourself and the materials. And it's small, but you could definitely have a house. I mean, like you can have a tiny
A
house.
studio, a tiny
Yeah.
house. That is not including, of course, doors, windows, and all
Well, it
that,
depends
right?
again
The
how many
floor
doors.
you want to put in.
Doors, and you're going to get used windows, you know. So I I recommend always, you can, like right now I'm at this place trying to find used windows. I'm at the Restore. Habitat for
How
Humanity is a great place.
can you find used windows? Because the shape of the windows are kind of circulars, or right? Or you're using square
You
windows?
have to use square windows if you want it sealed. If you're doing something that you don't care if it's going to be sealed, like if your weather, your temperatures are like Hawaii or tropical, and you're just gonna use mosquito netting, yeah, we can make a round window, you know. Round windows are good. I don't like square windows, but for the environment that I'm doing it in right now, which is Utah, it gets really cold. I want the double pane insulative windows with, you know, with weather stripping, and if you want to buy a round one of that, can be very expensive. And so we're trying to make the best of it. We're also, yeah, you can make them look beautiful still. There's
Nice.
still ways to look beautiful.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, before we close, what other things can we do with Aircrete? Because I see things beautiful like caves and you know, other stuff, cool stuff with Aircrete that you don't.
Yeah,
What other
cool. Yeah. One of the coolest things I'm also a sculptor. So one of the coolest things that I loved about it is that you can sculpt it. You can even take a spoon and scratch into it, you know. You can carve it, you know. What you can make I make furniture out of it. I make bathtubs out of it. I make sinks, I make cabinets, I make shelving. I make everything like that. One of my favorite things to do is to do the finishes, like build the shelving in it, you know, and it's all built in, you know, build benches, you know, there's a lot of things you can do with it. That's another thing why I really got attracted, because it's super versatile. It's not like concrete that once you make a form and you pour it in there, that's it. That's what you got. You're not going to try to carve it out, you know, but this, you can carve it out. And then we do a cement, like with a fiberglass mesh on the outside. That's what gives it a lot of strength too, is when we do the fiberglass. And then once you do the fiberglass and you do cement on the outside, which is a nice thick shell, that's when you have some really strong rigidity. But for the shape, you can carve it, you can make furniture, make planter boxes, like I said, bathtubs, shelving, all the furniture on the inside of the house could be made pretty much out of Aircrete. A table, you know.
That's amazing. I'm so excited, Ignacio, that we're going to have this workshop here in Mount Shasta from May 24th to June 2nd. Actually, we open another possibility. If people can come for 10 days, you can come for 5 days, starting on May 25th, and then to
Yeah,
the.
that's great. That's great. The beginning of the workshop, there'll be a lot of introduction, it'll be very useful for people to see the beginning. If you can't make the second part of the building, actually, the first part will give you a good introduction, a good solid introduction, and at least on the mixes.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much. I know you're busy there in Utah, right? You're
I'm
in
in
Utah?
Utah right now. Yeah, sorry for the delay. It's my first time doing this. This is great.
Okay. It's you're forgiven.
Thank you.
I really like what you're doing, and yes, I'm so excited that you're coming and we're gonna do this together here.
Beautiful. The workshops are so beautiful. The people that show up, I, I don't just do this because it's a career, but I do it because it fulfills me spiritually. And the people that show up are really beautiful. And there's something that happens when you're teaching people on on fulfilling one of their basic needs, which is shelter. You know, and it empowers people, because it's teaching people how to build their own houses is if people realize it's reachable, like you can do it, like you don't, it's just it
Yes.
shifts, it gives you hope, you know. It's just beautiful. And the community that we develop with this is just, it's really powerful, really beautiful.
And also we're gonna take a few breaks, and we're going to the waterfalls and to the lake and to the
Yeah, it's so,
mountain.
so beautiful.
Or yeah, to immerse in nature at the same time that we're gonna be building this together
Yeah,
as a community. So thank you very
yeah,
much. And,
excited.
yeah, so see you soon here in Mount Shasta.
Okay, gracias,
Thank
adios.
Gracias. And I also want to remind you guys that Scatter Light is offering 30 days of free scalar energy that you can get into the link in the bio and get 30 days of free scalar energy. And this is an amazing quantum healing that is having great results with chronic diseases. So you are all invited to enjoy this energy, scalar energy. And see you here. Nos vemos el 24 de mayo hasta el 2 de junio, o si quieren tomar 5 o 6 días de este workshop de Aircrete para construir domos, y cada uno de nosotros va a aprender a construir un domo que, como ya escucharon a Ignacio, estos domos se pueden construir en cualquier parte, en cualquier tipo de clima, frío, calor. Se van a aprender como qué medidas, qué diámetro, qué espesor hacerlos para el tipo de clima. Y bueno, y vamos a practicar aquí haciendo un pequeño domo también de meditación y de sonido en Avalon y Mount Shasta. Así que muchísimas gracias, los amo muchísimo. Yes, it's gonna be fun. Yes, so I hope to see you here. La información, all the information for this workshop is also in the bio. But if you want me to send you this directly, solo escribe domo abajo cuando observes el en vivo después. Just type domo, the word, and I'll send you more information. So I love you, family. Bye bye.